Lyra had walked the markets of Zerath Prime so many times that she could navigate them blindfolded. She knew where the traders from Varnus sold their spices, where the holographic merchants displayed their wares, and which alleyways were safest when the rogue scavengers roamed after nightfall. Still, no matter how much she moved or worked, the cold looks never stopped. The whispers always followed her. "She's the widow," they said. Cursed. Unlucky. Lyra had long stopped listening, though the sting of rejection never faded completely. Her spouse, Corin, had been a diplomat of great renown among the Zitherans. Their death in a mysterious accident years ago had left her alone, and the galaxy, cruel as it could be, refused to look past it. She had tried, she had traveled from system to system, offering her skills as a translator, a mediator, a negotiator, but every society she approached found a reason to reject her. Now she stood before the Trading Council of Zerath Prime, a place she had hoped might be different. It was one of the largest councils in the sector, a gathering of representatives from dozens of planets, all here to negotiate trade routes, tariffs, and alliances. She had spent weeks preparing a proposal that could have benefited dozens of smaller colonies, preventing a crisis that might have disrupted supplies of food and medicine across several systems. She knew the stakes, and she believed her plan was sound. But as she stepped forward, the room's atmosphere shifted. Several council members glanced at her with thinly veiled disdain. Some whispered to each other, pointing at her slender frame and the simple dark cloak she wore. A senior delegate from the Trivarian sector spoke first. "We are aware of Lyra," the delegate said, their voice icy. "We do not take proposals from someone who brings misfortune. You were rejected by your own kind, were you not?" Lyra's heart sank, but she held her head high. "I understand your hesitation," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her chest. "But the situation at hand is urgent. The colonies on sectors K-14 and M-22 face shortages that could have lasting consequences. My proposal is not about my past. It is about solutions, and I assure you it is sound." A murmur spread across the council chamber. One member scoffed. "Sound? From a widow whose spouse died in disgrace? How can we trust your judgment?" Lyra clenched her fists at her sides. She had prepared herself for rejection, yes, but the cruel dismissal stung more than she had expected. She tried to explain again, but the council had already moved on, ignoring her entirely. Within minutes, the debate shifted to another topic, leaving her standing alone, unheard, humiliated. Outside the council hall, the sun of Zerath Prime glared harshly against the white and silver spires of the city. Lyra moved down the crowded streets, avoiding eye contact with anyone. The air smelled faintly of ionized metal and distant rain. She wondered how many more times she would have to endure such public dismissal before she simply gave up and returned to the shadows of the colony she had once called home. Her thoughts were interrupted by a voice. That was unfair. Lyra looked up to see a human man approaching, tall and broad-shouldered, with dark hair and deep, observant eyes. He wore the uniform of an interstellar explorer, marked with the insignia of the Human Alliance. She frowned slightly, wary of strangers. Humans were a curious species, often bold, often careless, and sometimes untrustworthy in dealings with alien societies. "I am Captain Aaron Kepler," the man said, extending a hand. "I've observed the council's response. They were wrong to dismiss you." Lyra hesitated, unsure whether to respond. "I appreciate your concern, Captain," she said cautiously. "But you do not know what it is like to be rejected by everyone." Aaron smiled gently. "Maybe not. But I do know what it's like to recognize talent and courage when others cannot see it. I think you have both, Lyra, and I think the galaxy would be foolish to ignore you." For a moment, Lyra studied him, searching for any hint of mockery. She found none. There was only sincerity, a rare and dangerous quality in the world she had learned to navigate. "Why would a human care?" she asked quietly. "Because humans value action and results over appearances," Aaron replied. "And because I've learned that sometimes one person's belief can change everything." They walked together through the bustling streets, Lyra feeling a strange mixture of suspicion and relief. He asked her about her past, about her work, about the proposal she had tried to present to the council. And though she was wary, something about the way he listened made her begin to open up. Hours passed as they discussed strategies for her proposal, and the possibilities it held for preventing shortages in several colonies. By the time they stopped near the docks of the interstellar port, Lyra felt a cautious hope stir inside her, something she had not felt in years. "Listen," Aaron said. pausing on the edge of the docks. "I think you can make a difference. I don't care what the council says, and if you're willing, I want to help you prove it." Lyra looked out at the sea of ships docked in the port, the gleaming hulls reflecting the twin suns of Zerath Prime. She thought of all the places she had been, all the councils that had turned her away, all the doors that had closed in her face, and yet here was someone willing to stand beside her, someone willing to believe. "I don't know if I can," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've tried so many times and the outcome is always the same." "Then try with me," Aaron said firmly. "I won't let you face this alone." For the first time in years, Lyra felt a spark of determination. Maybe, just maybe, this human could help her change the path she had thought was set in stone. Maybe, just maybe, she could show the galaxy that her worth was not tied to her past, her losses, or the labels others placed on her. Over the next few days, Lyra and Aaron worked tirelessly, mapping out trade routes, gathering data from colonists, and predicting the possible consequences of the shortages in sectors K-14 and M-22. Lyra's knowledge of alien cultures and languages became invaluable, allowing them to contact systems that others could not reach. Even as they worked, whispers followed her. Some alien traders laughed behind her back, questioning why she would align herself with a human. Others shook their heads, warning Aaron that associating with her was risky. But he did not waver. His belief in her strength and intelligence was unwavering, a constant presence that reminded Lyra she was not invisible, not worthless, not forgotten. One evening, after hours of planning and discussion, they stood together on the balcony of a low-orbit observation station, looking out at the stars stretching endlessly across the void. "Do you ever get tired of being rejected?" Aaron asked softly. Lyra thought for a moment. "Every day," she admitted. "But I have to keep going. Because if I don't, who else will?" Aaron nodded, understanding her completely. "Then let's show them what happens when the right person finally gets the chance to prove themselves." For the first time in a long time, Lyra allowed herself to hope. Maybe the galaxy was not entirely closed off to her. Maybe, with the right ally and the right plan, she could step out of the shadows and into the light, showing the universe her true value. The hum of the station's engines filled the quiet night. Lyra felt the weight of years of rejection slowly lifting, replaced by a resolve she had not known she possessed. She had been alone for so long, abandoned by every society she tried to join. But now, with one human beside her, she felt a sense of possibility she had thought lost forever. And deep inside, she knew that this was only the beginning. The journey ahead would be difficult, filled with obstacles and dangers, but for the first time in years, she felt ready to face it. Not as a widow, not as an outcast, but as someone who could make a difference. As the twin suns of Zerath Prime set behind distant mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and violet, Lyra turned to Aaron. "Then let's begin," she said. Aaron smiled. "We will. And together we'll show them why believing in the right person matters." And with that, the first step of their journey started. Two unlikely allies standing on the edge of a galaxy that had yet to see what Lyra was truly capable of. The hum of the interstellar ship was steady beneath Lyra's feet as she and Aaron navigated the corridors toward the command deck. The star system stretched endlessly beyond the reinforced windows, each point of light representing a planet, a colony, or a trade station. To many it was just the galaxy as it always had been, but to Lyra it was full of possibilities she had been denied for so long. Aaron was already at the navigation console, adjusting the ship's course. "We'll reach Sector K-14 in less than 6 hours," he said. "From there, we can contact the colonies and start implementing the relief plan." Lyra nodded, reviewing the data on her tablet. The shortages in K-14 and M-22 were severe, affecting both food and essential medical supplies. If left unchecked, several colonies could face starvation, and the ripple effect could destabilize entire regions of trade. She tapped her clawed fingers on the tablet, running simulations and recalculating routes. "I've cross-referenced the supply inventories with what's available in nearby sectors," she said. "We can divert shipments from neutral colonies without risking shortages elsewhere. But the rogue traders in M-22 may try to intercept our transports. They operate outside council oversight and they're ruthless." Aaron glanced at her, impressed. "You've thought of everything." "I've had to," she replied quietly. After being rejected everywhere, I've learned to anticipate obstacles before they appear. Aaron smiled. Then let's make sure the galaxy finally sees your skill instead of your past. The ship dropped into the orbit of Sector K-14. From above, the colony sprawled across a rocky planet, domed cities glinting beneath the twin suns. The sensors showed clusters of ships arriving and leaving, and even from orbit, Lyra could sense the tension in the air. Supplies were scarce, tempers were short, and the population was beginning to panic. We'll split into 2 teams, Aaron said. I'll handle negotiations with the colony leaders. You take the supplies and organize distribution. Once we're done here, we move to M22. Lyra nodded, taking a deep breath. She stepped into the landing shuttle, feeling the familiar tremor of anticipation. She had coordinated supplies before, but never under such scrutiny, never with lives depending so heavily on her decisions. The shuttle landed in the central plaza of K-14. Colonists crowded the streets, murmuring and gesturing anxiously as the shuttle's ramp descended. Lyra could feel their fear, their hunger, and their frustration radiating through the crowd. Some glanced at her suspiciously, having likely heard rumors of the rejected Zitharan widow. Step aside, a colony overseer barked. We don't need outsiders interfering. Lyra straightened, her voice calm but firm. I'm here to help. If we work together, we can prevent a crisis, but we must act quickly. The overseer hesitated, clearly unused to seeing someone approach the problem with both confidence and knowledge. Aaron stepped forward, placing a reassuring hand on Lyra's shoulder. She knows what she's doing. Trust her. I do. It was the first time anyone had publicly supported her without hesitation. The words hit Lyra in an unexpected way, filling her with a surge of determination. She moved among the crowd, delegating tasks, coordinating supply routes, and making use of local resources with efficiency that surprised even the skeptical overseer. Hours passed, and slowly, the distribution began to stabilize. Lyra instructed colony workers to set up temporary food stations, rerouted shipments to avoid congestion, and managed communication between different districts to ensure no area was overlooked. Her alien features, often the target of suspicion, now seemed to inspire quiet respect. The colonists began to notice her skill, her calm in the chaos, and her unwavering dedication. Aaron watched from a distance, observing the subtle shift in the crowd. See that? He whispered to himself. They're starting to believe in you. But their success was not without danger. In the outskirts of the colony, a small fleet of rogue ships approached, cloaked and moving quickly. Lyra's sensors picked up the anomaly immediately. They're here, she said, tension sharpening her voice. The rogue traders from M22. They've detected our supply transports and intend to intercept them. Aaron frowned. Can we stop them? Yes, Lyra replied, already calculating strategies. If we create diversions and use the colony's terrain, we can force them to retreat. But we have to act now. She led a small team, including some trusted colonists, to the landing zones where supply transports were parked. Using quick commands and precise timing, they activated decoy shipments and altered flight paths. The rogue traders, expecting easy targets, were confused and disoriented by the sudden maneuvers. Several ships collided or were forced to retreat, unable to adapt to the unexpected strategy. From the command console, Aaron coordinated communications, alerting nearby security patrols to intercept any remaining threats. Within an hour, the rogue traders had fled, leaving the colony's shipments intact. The colonists erupted in cheers, and Lyra could hear the first words of praise directed at her from those who had doubted her only hours before. She felt a mixture of relief and pride, but she kept her composure, knowing that the challenges were far from over. As night fell on K-14, painting the sky in hues of purple and gold, Aaron joined her on a rooftop overlooking the colony. You did it, he said. You saved the supplies and the lives of thousands of people. And you did it while everyone else doubted you. Lyra allowed herself a small smile. I just did what needed to be done. I've spent too long hiding from the galaxy. Maybe it's time I stopped running. Aaron nodded. And this is just the beginning. M22 is waiting, and it's going to be more dangerous than K-14. The next day, they set course for M22, a sector known for its rugged terrain and unpredictable weather. The rogue traders who had tried to intercept the K-14 supplies were known to operate freely in this area, and intelligence suggested they were planning to consolidate their control over several smaller colonies. Lyra studied the data, tracing the patterns of their movements and predicting likely ambush points. If we can reach the main transport hub before they do, we can prevent them from taking over, she said. We need speed, precision, and coordination. Aaron adjusted the ship's engines, preparing for the jump to hyperspace. Then let's make it happen, he said, smiling. I trust your plan. As the stars blurred past during the jump, Lyra reflected on how far she had come. A few days ago, she had been humiliated in the council chamber, dismissed as a failed widow with nothing to offer. Now she was actively saving colonies, protecting lives, and proving her value in a universe that had long ignored her. Yet she knew the journey was not over. Challenges lay ahead, and not everyone would welcome her success. There would be skeptics, enemies, and those who wished to see her fail. But for the first time, she felt she could face them. With Aaron by her side and her skills finally recognized, she was no longer invisible, no longer powerless. The ship exited hyperspace near M22, revealing a cluster of rugged planets bathed in the orange glow of a distant sun. Scanners indicated that the rogue fleet was already in position, patrolling the skies and monitoring local traffic. Lyra's heart raced, but she steadied herself, analyzing the terrain, calculating possibilities, and preparing for the next confrontation. Aaron looked at her, his expression calm but determined. Ready? He asked. Lyra nodded, her eyes sharp and focused. Ready. Let's show them that underestimating someone is a mistake they won't make twice. As the ship descended toward the planet, the stakes were clear. M22 would test Lyra's skills, her courage, and her ability to command respect in a world that had long denied her. But she no longer doubted herself. For the first time in her life, she believed not only in her abilities but in the power of one person's determination to change the course of events. And as the twin suns of M22 cast long shadows over jagged mountains and sprawling colonies, Lyra took a deep breath, ready to step into the challenge, ready to prove that a widow once rejected by the galaxy could be its greatest hope. The planet of M22 rose like a jagged jewel beneath Lyra's ship, its sharp mountains and deep canyons cutting the sunlight into patterns that danced across the rugged landscape. The rogue traders had fortified their positions near the central transport hub, and Lyra could see the glint of their ships lined up like predators waiting to strike. The colony here was smaller than K-14, but the stakes were no less critical. If the rogue fleet seized control, supply routes for dozens of nearby systems would be blocked, and thousands of lives could be endangered. Aaron stood beside her on the command deck, his eyes scanning the displays. This place is tougher than K-14, he said. They've had time to prepare. Lyra nodded, her fingers moving across the console with precise efficiency. Which is why we cannot act without a plan. We need to divide their attention, force them into mistakes, and secure the hub before they realize what we are doing. Aaron raised an eyebrow. And how do you suggest we do that? She turned, her eyes steady and focused. We need a distraction. A few decoy transports to draw their patrols away. Then we use the terrain to our advantage. The canyons near the hub are narrow, perfect for funneling their ships into predictable paths. If we control those paths, we control the fight. Aaron smiled, impressed. You've thought of everything. I've learned to think ahead, Lyra replied. After being rejected, I had no choice but to prepare for everything. They deployed the first wave of decoy transports, sending small cargo ships out from the colony in calculated patterns. As expected, the rogue traders took the bait, rushing toward the decoys to intercept what they thought were valuable shipments. Lyra's sensors showed their movements in real time, and she guided Aaron and the colony defense teams to strategic positions along the canyon passes. The first clash was sudden and fierce. Rogue ships attempted to break through the narrow paths, but Lyra's plan held. Using precise commands and well-timed maneuvers, she forced several of the enemy vessels into collisions with the canyon walls. Sparks and debris rained down as the remaining ships scrambled, their formations breaking apart. Aaron's voice was steady but full of admiration. "You've turned the terrain into a weapon. Brilliant." Lyra allowed herself a brief smile but quickly returned to the task at hand. The rogue fleet was still dangerous, and she knew that any mistake could cost lives. She coordinated the colony defense teams, directing them to create barriers and trap points that her sensors indicated would be most effective. The rogue traders, frustrated by the unexpected resistance, began to overextend their movements, leaving gaps in their defenses. It was the perfect opportunity. Lyra guided a team of colonists to secure the central transport hub, while Aaron provided cover from above with the ship's weapon systems. Together they moved with precision and coordination, clearing the hub of rogue forces with minimal casualties. Inside the hub, Lyra found herself face to face with the rogue commander, a massive alien with dark, scaly skin and piercing yellow eyes. He sneered at her. "So the widow thinks she can lead. How amusing." Lyra met his gaze evenly. "I am not just a widow. I am someone who knows how to protect lives, and I will not let you take this colony." The commander laughed, clearly underestimating her. "You against me?" But Lyra had anticipated his arrogance. Using a combination of verbal commands, strategic positioning, and quick thinking, she guided the defending team to isolate him from his forces. The commander realized too late that he had been funneled into a narrow corridor designed for containment, not escape. Lyra's precise calculations left him trapped until Aaron's team arrived to secure him. With the rogue commander captured and the transport hub secured, Lyra allowed herself a moment to breathe. The colony workers cheered, rushing forward to thank her for saving their homes and livelihoods. She felt a strange warmth at the gratitude in their eyes, something she had not experienced in years. Aaron approached her, smiling. "You did it. You've changed everything here. These people will never see you the same way again." Lyra shook her head slightly. "I've only done what was necessary, but yes, perhaps they are starting to see me differently." As the sun set over M22, painting the canyons in deep shades of red and gold, Aaron and Lyra walked among the colonists, helping distribute supplies and ensure that everyone had what they needed. For the first time in her life, Lyra felt a sense of acceptance, not from a council, not from distant societies, but from the people whose lives she had touched directly. That night, as they returned to their ship, Aaron spoke quietly. "You've proven your worth, Lyra, not just to them but to the galaxy, and you've done it while keeping your integrity and your compassion intact." Lyra smiled, feeling a mix of exhaustion and pride. "It's strange. I've spent so long hiding, trying to survive, fearing rejection, and now I feel like I belong, even if just a little." Aaron nodded. "You do belong, and soon, the galaxy will have no choice but to see it." Over the next few days they worked to stabilize the colony further, ensuring that supply chains were secure and that the rogue traders would not return. Lyra coordinated repairs to damaged infrastructure, negotiated with local leaders to streamline future shipments, and trained colonists in defensive strategies. Each day she grew more confident, more respected, and more certain that she had found her place in the universe. But it was not just the colonies that began to notice. Reports of Lyra's success spread to neighboring systems, reaching ears that had once dismissed her. Messages arrived from councils, traders, and even distant allies, acknowledging her achievements and requesting her guidance. The same galaxy that had once rejected her now sought her insight and assistance. One evening, as they prepared to leave M22 for the next mission, Lyra stood on the observation deck staring at the stars. "It's incredible," she said softly. "I never thought I would be seen as someone important, someone capable. I thought my life would always be empty." Aaron stood beside her, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You're capable. You always were. You just needed a chance to show it." Lyra nodded, her mind racing with thoughts of the future. There would still be challenges, still be those who doubted her, still be moments of fear and uncertainty. But she had learned that she could face them, and that she did not have to face them alone. As the ship lifted off from M22, leaving the colony safe and thriving behind them, Lyra felt a sense of purpose she had never known. She was no longer just a widow, no longer just an outcast. She was a leader, a protector, and someone whose decisions could shape the fate of entire systems. Aaron glanced at her, sensing her thoughts. "Ready for the next challenge?" he asked. Lyra smiled, her eyes bright with determination. I am. Let's see what the galaxy has in store for us next. And as the stars stretched endlessly before them, Lyra understood that the journey was far from over. There would be more trials, more enemies, more obstacles, but now, she faced them not as a lonely widow rejected by all, but as a capable, respected figure whose actions could inspire hope across the galaxy. For the first time in her life, Lyra believed in herself. And in the vast, uncertain expanse of the universe, that belief would be her greatest strength. The ship glided through the silent vastness of space, the stars stretching endlessly in every direction. Lyra stood at the observation deck, her gaze fixed on distant systems, thinking of all the colonies she had helped, all the lives she had touched. M22 had been the ultimate test of her abilities, and she had passed. The rogue traitors had been defeated, the colonies secured, and her reputation was beginning to grow across the galaxy. Aaron joined her, leaning against the railing. You've done more than anyone expected, he said. And people are taking notice. Lyra turned to him, a quiet smile on her face. It's strange. For so long I was invisible. Now, letters, messages, requests for help, they come from everywhere. Some of the councils that rejected me are even asking for my guidance. Aaron nodded. It's proof of what I said from the start. One person believing in you can make all the difference. She looked out at the stars again, thinking of Corinne, her late spouse. There was a part of her that still mourned, that still felt the weight of loss. But now, instead of being consumed by grief, she could channel it into something meaningful. She could honor the memory of her spouse not by hiding, but by building, protecting, and leading. Their next destination was the sector of Rilara, a bustling trade hub known for political intrigue. The council there had been slow to accept her credentials, but after word of her successes spread, several representatives had invited her to advise on stabilizing trade routes threatened by piracy. As the ship descended into Rilara's orbit, Lyra felt the familiar tension she had once experienced whenever entering a council chamber. But this time was different. This time she was not alone, and she was not powerless. She was a respected figure, her skills proven, and her voice carried weight. The chamber was grand, filled with delegates from dozens of systems. The walls shimmered with holographic displays of trade routes, population data, and supply projections. Lyra entered, her posture confident, her mind focused. Whispers rippled through the room, but they were not words of dismissal. They were words of curiosity and respect. She began her presentation, laying out a comprehensive plan to secure trade routes, coordinate anti-piracy patrols, and ensure the equitable distribution of supplies. Her voice was steady, her logic clear, and her strategy precise. Even those who had doubted her before could not help but be impressed. A senior delegate, who had initially been skeptical, leaned forward. Your plan is thorough, they said, and your experience in K-14 and M-22 speaks for itself. It seems we underestimated you. Lyra allowed herself a small, quiet smile. Perhaps, she replied. But the galaxy cannot afford underestimation when lives are at stake. My goal is not to prove myself. It is to ensure that people have the resources and protection they need. The council voted unanimously to implement her plan, a first in her long career of being dismissed and ignored. It was a victory, not just for her, but for every colony and trader who would benefit from her work. As she left the chamber, Aaron caught up with her, smiling. Do you feel it? He asked. The shift? The way people are looking at you now? Lyra nodded. I do, and it feels right, like I've finally found a place where I belong, not because of who I lost, but because of what I can give. Over the following weeks, Lyra and Aaron traveled from system to system, stabilizing supply chains, negotiating with councils, and thwarting small pirate operations before they could escalate. Each success strengthened her reputation and proved to the galaxy that she was more than her past, more than the label of widow that had once haunted her. In one particularly tense negotiation on the planet Thesara, Lyra faced a group of skeptical counselors who doubted her proposals. They questioned her motives, her allegiance, and even her capabilities. But she remained calm, presenting evidence, demonstrating strategy simulations, and ultimately convincing them of the effectiveness of her plan. By the end of the session, the council not only approved her recommendations but invited her to become an official advisor to the sector. Aaron watched her from the corner of the room, pride evident in his expression. "You're changing everything," he whispered. Lyra allowed herself a quiet laugh. "It's not just me. It's all the people I've worked with, the colonists, the teams, even you. Without that support, none of this would have been possible." The news of her successes soon reached her home planet of Zithera. Despite the years of rejection and whispers, her family and former colleagues reached out, expressing surprise and admiration at her achievements. Letters poured in from alien societies she had once been shut out from, acknowledging her contributions and seeking her guidance for future initiatives. One evening, as she and Aaron prepared to leave another colony, Lyra received a communication from the Council of Zirath Prime, the same council that had humiliated her months ago. They requested her presence to advise on a new interstellar trade agreement, citing her experience and proven judgment. She looked at Aaron, her eyes bright with determination. "They want my help. After everything, they finally see me." Aaron nodded. "You've earned it. And you've earned their respect honestly, through skill, courage, and persistence." When she returned to the council chamber of Zirath Prime, the atmosphere was different. Delegates who had once sneered now listened intently. Her words carried weight, her strategies were respected, and her presence alone commanded attention. Lyra felt a quiet satisfaction, knowing that she had transformed not only her own path but the way others perceived her. After the session, a senior counselor approached her. "Lyra, I must apologize for our past treatment. We did not see your value then, but we do now. Your contributions have changed the course of many lives." Lyra nodded gracefully. "Thank you. It is not about the past, it is about what we do now together to help those in need." Aaron joined her, a reassuring presence. "You've come full circle," he said. "From rejection to recognition, from being overlooked to being sought after." Lyra allowed herself a deep breath, looking around at the council chamber, at the delegates who now respected her, and at the galaxy that had slowly come to see her worth. She realized that her journey had been long and difficult, but every challenge, every rejection, had shaped her into the person she had become. As the twin suns of Zirath Prime sat behind the spires of the city, Lyra reflected on her past, her losses, and her victories. She was no longer defined by what she had lost or by the judgments of others. She was defined by her actions, her intelligence, and her unwavering dedication to helping others. Aaron placed a hand on her shoulder. "The galaxy will never see you the same way again," he said. Lyra smiled, feeling a sense of peace she had not known in years. And that is exactly as it should be. The journey ahead would still hold challenges, but Lyra no longer feared them. She had allies, experience, and the knowledge that one person's belief, in herself or in her, could change the course of events across the galaxy. For the first time in years, she felt truly seen. Not as a widow, not as an outcast, but as a capable, respected figure whose actions could shape the destiny of countless systems. And with Aaron by her side, she knew that together they could face anything the universe presented. As the stars shimmered in the distance, Lyra made a quiet promise to herself, to continue helping those in need, to continue standing for what was right, and to never let the world dictate her worth again. She had been rejected, but she had risen above it. She had been doubted, but she had proven herself. And now she would continue to shine, a beacon of hope, courage, and resilience in a galaxy that had finally come to see her true value. And so, Lyra's journey continued, not as a shadow of the past, but as a leader, a protector, and a symbol of what it meant to rise above rejection and claim one's place among the stars.